Austin, Texas, a city where coffee shops have waiting lists, and the housing market makes grown adults sob into their avocado toast. But did you know that the family business empires in this city have fortunes rivaling the GDP of small countries, with one of the families holding $839 billion in net worth? We're counting down 8 dynasties whose combined fortune rivals the GDP of entire nations. And while most people outside Texas have never even heard their names, the stories are absolutely wild. Let's dive in. 8. John Paul DeJoria, the man who built empires from a back seat. Let's kick things off with someone who, by all conventional logic, should not be a billionaire. John Paul DeJoria, co-founder of Paul Mitchell Hair Care and Patrón Spirits, was homeless. Not once, but twice. And not the between apartments homeless. We're talking living in his car and counting coins for food type of homeless. And the first time he tried to build something with his life, he did it with a $700 loan and an almost delusional amount of belief in his own ideas. That $700 loan became Paul Mitchell Systems, one of the most recognized professional hair care brands on the planet. And because apparently $1 billion empire wasn't enough of a story, he then co-founded Patrón Spirits, which he eventually sold in 2018 for a cool $5.1 billion. His current net worth sits around $3 billion as of 2026, and he chose Austin as his home specifically because, in his words, it was the best place in the world to raise a child. Now, here's what makes DeJoria genuinely interesting beyond the numbers. The man owns an 80-acre property that was formerly McDonald's global headquarters. He's invested in a 19th-century frigate. He funded the digitization of African American history. His philanthropic foundation, JP's Peace, Love, and Happiness Foundation, has its hands in everything from feeding communities through his Grow Appalachia project to fighting homelessness locally through Austin's Mobile Loaves and Fishes initiative. This isn't a billionaire writing checks from a distance. He and his wife Eloise are genuinely embedded in the city's social fabric. And here's a detail that just perfectly encapsulates who this man is. When he was still homeless, he owned a 20-year-old Rolls-Royce, because of course he did. The car was beat up, barely running, but it was a Rolls-Royce. And that tells you everything about DeJoria's relationship with ambition. He didn't wait to feel wealthy to act like someone who believed in his own future. His Lake Austin estate is famously minimalist for its size, which feels very on brand for a man who built everything from nothing and never forgot what nothing actually felt like. In Austin's billionaire landscape, DeJoria is the elder statesman, the bridge between the old hippie Austin and the new billionaire Austin, reminding everyone that how you use your success matters just as much as how you built it. 7. Bert, Tito, Beveridge, the vodka baron, who said no to everyone. Now, if DeJoria is the philosopher king of Austin's billionaire class, Tito Beveridge is its scrappy, bootstrapped folk hero. And yes, his last name is actually Beveridge, which, when you consider he built a vodka empire, feels less like coincidence and more like destiny. Tito, real name Bert, was a geophysicist and oil man before he decided to pivot into spirits. In the late 1990s, he scraped together $90,000 from 19 different credit cards, built his own pot still by hand, and started producing vodka out of a small distillery in Austin. He worked 24-hour shifts. He personally hand-delivered bottles to local liquor stores. There was no VC funding, no angel investor, no strategic launch campaign. Just a man, a homemade still, and an absurd amount of grit. Today, Tito's handmade vodka is the #1 selling vodka in the entire United States, moving nearly 60 million bottles every single year. His net worth in 2026 sits at $5.5 billion. And here's the kicker that separates Tito from pretty much every other billionaire on this list. He still owns 100% of the company. Every acquisition offer from global spirits conglomerates, every billion-dollar buyout pitch, he's turned them all down, every single one. The Tito's legacy is fully, entirely Austin-owned, and he intends to keep it that way. His philanthropic arm, called Love Tito's, is deeply focused on animal welfare and disaster relief, causes that reflect his personality far more than any corporate giving strategy would. He's not a social media presence. He doesn't do press circuits. He makes really good vodka, takes care of his city, and minds his business with the energy of someone who genuinely doesn't need your validation. And unlike some of his peers who get associated with driving Austin's cost of living into the stratosphere, Beveridge is one of the few billionaires here who's universally liked, because he's seen as homegrown, authentic, and stubbornly independent. In a city increasingly defined by outside money coming in and changing everything, Tito is the guy who was already here, already building, and never left. 6. Joseph Liemandt, the code cowboy who threw the best parties in tech history. If the previous two entries were about authenticity and bootstrapping, Joseph Liemandt is a very different kind of Austin legend. One forged in the chaos of the dot-com boom, complete with Vegas trips, 100-hour work weeks, and a recruiting culture so intense it basically had its own mythology. Liemandt founded Trilogy Software in the early 1990s, right when Austin was just starting to earn its Silicon Hills nickname. And he did it by pulling top graduates away from Stanford and Harvard with a pitch that was essentially, come work insane hours, build something enormous, and we will throw the most legendary parties you've ever been to. New recruits went through Trilogy University, a 3-month boot camp that had them working through weekends and bonding through experiences that included Liemandt flying entire cohorts to Las Vegas for impromptu gambling sessions. By 1996, he was the youngest self-made person on the Forbes 400. He was 26. Then, the dot-com crash happened, and Trilogy, like a lot of that era's darlings, took a serious hit. But here's where Liemandt's story gets genuinely interesting rather than just cautionary. He didn't disappear. He rebuilt. His current vehicle is ESW Capital, a private equity firm that acquires mature software companies and squeezes maximum cash flow from them, often by restructuring the workforce through his recruiting platform, Crossover, which connects companies with global remote talent at lower cost. Controversial? Yes. Effective? His 2026 net worth of $6.6 billion makes a pretty clear argument. Liemandt and his wife Andra are also deeply embedded in Austin's political infrastructure, having funneled millions into PACs supporting law enforcement and moderate mayoral candidates. They're not the loudest voices in the room, but they're quietly making sure the room stays arranged to their preferences. Classic power move, honestly. But here's where it gets really interesting, and it ties directly into our next entry. Because the next family on this list didn't just play in Austin's tech scene, they completely redefined what kind of money could be made here. And they did it in an industry that most people would never associate with Silicon Hills. 5. Thai Lee, the quiet senti billionaire running a $15 billion machine. Quick question, who is the wealthiest self-made Korean woman in the world? If you didn't immediately say Thai Lee, you're not alone, and that's kind of the entire point. Thai Lee is the CEO and co-owner of Shy International, a company that generates roughly $15 billion in annual revenue by providing IT products and services, cloud infrastructure, data center solutions, software licensing, to some of the largest corporations and government agencies on the planet. Boeing is a client. AT&T is a client. The US federal government is a client. Her 2026 net worth sits at $7.5 billion, making her one of the wealthiest self-made women on Earth, and the vast majority of people scrolling LinkedIn have never heard her name. That anonymity is completely intentional. Thai Lee bought a failing software reseller in 1989 for less than $1 million. She was a fresh Harvard Business School graduate, first Korean woman to earn that distinction, and she saw an opportunity that others had written off. Over the next 3 decades, she scaled it into a global enterprise through disciplined, methodical expansion and a leadership philosophy that is genuinely unusual at this level of business. SHI has no special executive parking spaces, no separate bonus tiers for senior leadership. Everyone, at every level, is treated as a valued part of the organization. In a world of ego-driven tech cultures, she built the opposite. Her sister once described her childhood self as someone who was constantly planning the family's survival strategy in case of a North Korean invasion. That level of focused, contingency-driven thinking, at age 8, apparently translated rather well into building a recession-resistant enterprise worth billions. SHI's Austin footprint is massive, anchored by its major operations center at the Garza Ranch development. But you won't see Ty Lee at many galas or on many panels. She runs her company, takes care of her people, and lets the $15 billion in annual revenue do all the talking that needs to be done. 4. Joe Gebbia, the designer who co-founded a $75 billion company and then got bored. Most people know Joe Gebbia as the guy who co-founded Airbnb, the platform that fundamentally changed how humans think about travel, hospitality, and whether it's weird to sleep in a stranger's bed. What fewer people track is what he's been doing since stepping back from day-to-day operations in 2022. And honestly, it's a pretty fascinating second act. With a 2026 net worth of $8.2 billion, Gebbia relocated to Austin, drawn by the city's creative energy and lifestyle. A common Silicon Valley migration story by now. But Gebbia brought a genuinely design-first mindset that sets him apart from the pure finance crowd. He joined Tesla's board of directors in 2022 and picked up a minority ownership stake in the San Antonio Spurs, alongside, as you'll soon see, some very familiar names from this very list. But his most interesting current venture is Samara, a company building modular, factory-made, net-zero tiny homes called backyard units, designed to let homeowners add a rental unit or guest house to their existing property. It's a direct response to the housing affordability crisis that Austin, ironically, has become a symbol of. A billionaire, whose wealth was partly built by disrupting traditional accommodation, is now trying to solve the housing problem his generation helped create. Make of that what you will. Then in 2025, Gebbia was appointed as the first ever Chief Design Officer of the United States, leading the National Design Studio under DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, working directly alongside Elon Musk to apply design thinking to federal services. So yes, he went from designing a platform where people rent air mattresses to literally redesigning how the US government functions. That's quite the character arc. And speaking of DOGE and Elon Musk, you might be sensing a theme forming with Austin's top tier. Because the overlap between these families, their companies, their government roles, and their shared investment bets is starting to look less like coincidence and more like a very deliberate power network forming right in the heart of Texas. 3. Robert F. Smith, the $34 million promise and the $100 billion machine. Robert F. Smith is a chemical engineer who decided to go to business school and accidentally became the most prominent black billionaire in the United States. His path to that distinction runs through Vista Equity Partners, the Austin-headquartered private equity firm he founded in 2000, which now manages over $100 billion in assets with a singular focus: enterprise software companies. The chemical engineer detail isn't just background color, it's actually the key to how Vista operates. Smith approaches investing like an engineering problem. He builds systematic playbooks for how software companies should be run, then applies them across the portfolio with the precision of someone who spent years thinking in molecular structures. The results have been extraordinary. Vista has delivered annualized returns of around 31% since inception, which in private equity terms is the kind of number that makes other fund managers quietly question their life choices. His 2026 net worth is $10 billion, and he maintains a significant estate on Lake Austin. The first Black American to sign the Giving Pledge, Smith's most iconic philanthropic moment came at the 2019 Morehouse College commencement ceremony, when he looked out at the graduating class and told them he would personally pay off all of their student loan debt. The total bill, $34 million. He paid it. Now, here's the real kicker, because Smith's story is not without serious turbulence. In 2020, he reached a $139 million settlement with the Department of Justice over an offshore tax evasion scheme. It was a significant controversy that threatened to permanently define his legacy. But Smith's recovery from that episode and his continued standing in Austin's business community says something about both his resilience and the particular way wealth tends to insulate people from consequences that would devastate others. On the lifestyle front, Smith's 2015 wedding to Hope Dworacek on the Amalfi Coast has basically entered billionaire folklore. Held at the Villa Cimbrone in Ravello, the ceremony featured performances from John Legend, Seal, and Brian McKnight. Helicopters made over 100 trips to airlift and equipment, including a specific concert rig for Seal and a particular piano for John Legend. His son reportedly made his entrance on a cloud constructed by a Cirque du Soleil team. That's not a wedding. That's a production. 2. Michael Dell, the man who built an empire in his dorm room. If Robert F. Smith represents Austin's financial sophistication, Michael Dell represents its foundational mythology. The original proof that you could build a global technology empire right here in Central Texas, starting with nothing but a dorm room at the University of Texas and an idea about selling computers directly to customers. Dell Technologies in 2026 is not the company many people picture when they hear the name. It's not just laptops and desktops. It's a $141 billion net worth for its founder, a dramatic surge from $97.7 billion in 2025, driven almost entirely by the explosion in demand for AI-optimized server infrastructure. Enterprises building out AI capabilities need enormous data center hardware, and Dell Technologies has positioned itself as one of the primary suppliers of that architecture. The AI boom isn't just good news for Elon Musk's companies. It's also been an extraordinary tailwind for the guy who literally started the company in his college bedroom in 1984. The strategic pivot that made this possible happened in 2013, when Dell took his company private, a move that allowed him to restructure away from the declining consumer PC market toward enterprise IT. Then came the $67 billion acquisition of EMC in 2016, still the largest technology merger in history, which transformed Dell Technologies into a genuine enterprise powerhouse with deep roots in cloud infrastructure and data storage. His Austin residence, known locally as The Castle, is a 33,000-square-foot hilltop estate overlooking Lake Austin, 13 bathrooms, indoor and outdoor pools, a tennis court, security that you will not be getting past on a casual drive-by. It is, by any reasonable measure, extraordinary, and it physically dominates the skyline in a way that feels like a monument to the decades he spent building this city into a tech hub. The Dell dynasty is now entering its second generation of cultural relevance. His daughter Alexa has become a notable figure in tech and social circles, consulting for companies like Bumble and bringing the family name into the world of startup culture with a notably different energy than her father's methodical corporate approach. And then there's the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, which has committed over $2 billion to urban education, childhood health, and family economic programs, including funding the Dell Medical School at the University of Texas. Michael Dell didn't just move to Austin. He didn't just work in Austin. He spent decades investing in the city's institutions in a way that gives him a kind of cultural ownership that money alone can't manufacture. Which brings us to our number one, the one we teased at the very beginning. The man who looked at Austin and decided that if you're going to plant a flag somewhere, you might as well also build a rocket ship nearby, just in case the planet doesn't work out. 1. Elon Musk, the gravity point of everything. There is genuinely no comparable entry point into describing Elon Musk's wealth at this moment in history. His net worth as of early 2026 is estimated at approximately $839 billion, with some reports pushing closer to $852 billion after the post-election market surge in late 2024. To put that in terms that actually land, his fortune grew by nearly $500 billion in a single calendar year. That's not wealth accumulation. That's a category of financial reality that has never existed before in human history. His move to Austin wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was the relocation of an entire industrial ecosystem. Tesla's global corporate headquarters is here, anchored by Giga Texas, the massive manufacturing facility that became the physical symbol of Austin's emergence as a serious player in American industry. SpaceX's Starlink manufacturing and operations run out of the region. His AI venture, xAI, has established R&D operations in Austin, with the company reaching a $50 billion valuation by early 2026. The Boring Company, valued at $5.7 billion, is working on tunneling infrastructure. Neuralink, at $5 billion, is developing neurotechnology locally. SpaceX itself has been valued at anywhere between $210 billion and, following a late 2025 private tender offer, potentially approaching $800 billion. Analysts who track these trajectories seriously have noted that if current growth holds, particularly around SpaceX's Starlink satellite network expansion, Musk could become the world's first trillionaire by 2027. Not in a hyperbolic, headline-generating way. In a "this is what the math actually suggests" way. The residential side of Musk's Austin presence is genuinely fascinating, partly because it's been deliberately contradictory. He famously claimed to live in a 400-square-foot prefabricated, boxable casita near SpaceX's starbase in Boca Chica, minimalism as personal brand. But investigative reporting in late 2024 indicated he spent approximately $35 million acquiring multiple properties in Austin to create a private family compound, including a 14,400-square-foot Tuscan-style villa and a 6-bedroom mansion. Apparently, the minimalist narrative had an asterisk. The compound makes a certain sense given the complexity of his family structure. Musk has at least 14 children with 4 different women as of 2025, including his youngest, Selden Lycurgus, born to Neuralink executive Siobhan Zelis. He's spoken openly about his motivation to have many children as connected to his larger philosophy, ensuring the continuation of human civilization, treating his own offspring as part of the same multiplanetary mission that drives SpaceX. It's either visionary or deeply strange, depending on how charitable you're feeling on any given day. And beyond the personal empire, his political footprint is now substantial. His leadership role in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, alongside Joe Gebbia, has made Austin a genuine axis of federal policy influence. The city that was once known for live music and breakfast tacos is now also a place from which the restructuring of U.S. government services is being designed. His brother Kimbal is a significant presence in Austin's culinary and philanthropic scenes. His sister Tosca launched her film production company from the region. The Musk family in Austin isn't just one extraordinary individual. It's a network of influence spreading across industries, institutions, and now, quite literally, the machinery of government. And these were the 8 most influential and richest dynasties who own Austin. Which one fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into the lives of rich, take a look global status.